Welcome to a new episode of Baker Day Presents. We're here in the Morgan Hall kitchen once again. So it is a working kitchen. There is noises, there's different things going on. But we have a very special guest today, David Broadus. He's the Director of Finance and Administration here at Temple University. And he's brought his recipe for quiche coming right up. Welcome, David Broadus. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm fine.
I'm so glad you were able to stop by and make some food. What are we making today?
Quiche.
Quiche. You
Yes.
totally look French. I get it. So, what exactly is your title here? Like, what do you do at Temple?
I work within the Division of Student Affairs, Director of Finance and
Okay.
Administration. I report to the Vice President of Student Affairs.
Nice. So you work with money.
Yes.
So this is a little bit of a departure from your everyday.
Kind of, sort of. There's still numbers involved here.
There is numbers involved. I'm not gonna lie. All right. So why quiche? What's your? Have you been to France? Do you hang out there a lot?
No, this all started when I was 13, 14. My sister,
Your sister.
who was a school teacher at the time, went to France, and I was so excited to hear about it when she comes back. She says, "I'm making a quiche, David," and I thought, "Yeah, I'd like to see this." And the recipe stuck with me, with pencil nor paper. I remembered it.
The quiche.
The quiche
That was
recipe.
like your thing, huh?
My first big thing.
Nice. So a quiche is usually, it seems pretty simple.
For me, I've been doing it for a while.
Right, well here's the thing, right? French cooking is usually somewhat simple, but they make it way more complex. It's all about the layering of the flavors. It matters where you put stuff in the quiche. It matters how you layer it, what you cut first, how you cut it, if you cut it too big or too small, like everything. You'll see as we go through this. There's very few ingredients, and yet it's very important that you follow it
I
to
agree
the
with
letter. All right. So you usually start with a pie crust,
you. Yes.
frozen pie crust, right?
Yes, store-bought, frozen, pre-made pie crust.
We're not doing that today. So today, you're going to make a pie crust because that's fun, right? A lot more fun.
Ooh, I've never
You ever done
this.
that?
Never done this.
All right. So let's get started. We're going to make some quiche here. We're going to start with flour. See how I'm pointing? That's because
Yes.
you're starting with flour. You're making this. Dump it in, buddy.
The entire.
The entire thing, yeah, it's a cup and a half. And then we have about 2.5 tablespoons of shortening, and we have about 3 ounces of butter. You're gonna put that in there as well.
That goes in there.
Absolutely. So we like to use shortening because shortening has a higher melting point. So it allows you to have a flakier crust. But I don't like to use only shortening because I like the taste of butter. So I like to mix it up.
Gotcha.
Makes sense, right? And then over here we have it's like 1.5 teaspoons of sugar and a half teaspoon of salt. Okay, so that's all in the same container. Just dump that right in.
Wow.
Have you ever made biscuits?
No, I get the pre-made.
Is that so? The only thing you do is make omelets in a shell, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so this is like when you start mixing this, it's going to be like you would mix a biscuit dough. So the idea is you start with all your dry and your fats and just start crumbling up with your hands. Go ahead.
With my hands?
Yeah, why not? That's why I got into baking. When I went to school, keep going. Mix it all up, man. When I went to school, I was so excited because I walked by the pastry class, the baking class.
Yes.
And the German chef was working with muffin mix, and he was scooping it with his hand, and he was a mess. I thought, this is great. I get to play with my food. I'm in. You know what I mean? So
Yes,
I switched from culinary to pastry right then because I didn't like the idea of the culinary. That's perfect. So you see,
It is?
it's not done yet, but it's a good start. You see how it's
thank
breaking up into smaller pieces? A lot of people like to use like a pastry knife, which it's a little tool. It's got little sharp things on it, and they kind of bunch it up and they break it into little balls. I don't find that to be necessary, and I don't own a lot of kitchen tools. I like to be able to do things more organically.
Same here.
So if you break this up with your hands, you just kind of mix it in. It eventually breaks up and mixes in and becomes these little pea-sized pieces. Is what we're kind of aiming for. Right?
Gotcha. I'm with you.
So that's a good shot of the texture we're kind of looking for. It looks almost mealy a little bit, but those are the pieces of fat. You kind of want to leave them in there. You don't want to overmix it. Okay? And then all you're doing at this point is adding in water. So you're going to start mixing as I add in about 4 tablespoons of water. And it's very important that the water is ice cold. The reason for that is because your butter melts at about 82, 84 degrees, somewhere in there. And the shortening more like 90. And if you have warm water, it's going to start melting the fat, which then won't allow the fat to be layered with the flour. Because what's going to happen is that your fat's going to melt when it's in the oven, and it's going to create like a little pocket of steam that's going to allow it to keep it separate from the layers of the dough. Does that make sense? That's how you get like the nice flaky crust.
I follow what you're saying. I don't know why.
There's a lot of science involved here.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to start mixing. And then you
With
can kind
my
of
hands.
just mix it up. And it feels good, doesn't it?
Yes. Am I doing a good job?
You're doing a fantastic job. Just mix it up. Let's get in there. Don't over mix it, but mix it up. Like get it so it's like a ball. You're aiming for a ball of dough eventually, right?
Yes. It's sticking to my fingers.
Well, take it off your fingers then.
Oh, gotcha.
That's probably the wet parts that you need. And at some point, okay, so get all the stuff off your fingers, because they're probably important. At some point, you'll see it kind of comes together. And then it starts looking like a ball of dough.
Wow.
Right?
Yes, I see it beginning to happen.
And I mean, it's a little bit dry, so I'm going to actually add a little bit more water. You can kind of make adjustments. It's going to be, right now it's wintertime, so the air is dry, right? So in the summertime, when the air is more humid, you maybe don't need as much water because you're getting some water as you're mixing it anyways. Does that make sense?
I follow that logic.
Okay. So then we have this beautiful ball of dough. So typically then you would take this and put it in the fridge, and you would let the fat harden back up again. So that when you roll it out, it has the nice in between the layers and stuff. We're going to skip right past that today because we have a quiche to make, right?
Yes.
Okay, so here's a little flour for the table. You ever roll anything out?
No, why does the table need flour?
So that the dough doesn't stick to it?
Makes sense. Gotcha.
So I'm going to start it, but you're going to do this a little bit too here. So the key to rolling a dough out is you want to kind of keep moving it so it stays round. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
You see how the dough kind of looks marbled?
It does.
That's a good thing. That's the fat that's marbling. That's what you want. You want a marbled dough. Try to roll a little bit for it. Look at you getting all this experience. You got to put some pressure into it though. You know what I mean?
How's that?
That looks good.
I can roll with this.
He's a comedian too. We'll be here all week, folks.
Okay, this is how I roll.
All right, so as fun as that is, eventually you want to get it down to about 1/4 an eighth of an inch thick. You don't want it too thick because it's not the main part of your quiche. The egg is, right?
I agree. I call it the custard.
And it is a custard because it has cream and it has eggs in it, and that's basically what a custard is. This just happens to be a lot more egg than cream. Okay, so you don't need to spray the thing or anything, or the pie plate or anything, because you have the fats and the.
Makes sense.
Yeah, kind of like if you ever notice your Rita chocolate chip cookie recipe, and it'll say you just stick it directly onto the pan and bake them. That's because there's enough fat in it that it actually creates its own fat layer. So at this point, you're literally just going to kind of lift it up and push it down into the corner, right?
Lift and push.
Lift and push.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
makes sense.
Look how simple this is, man. You guys buy frozen dough next time?
I have skills. No, I think I will for the next couple times.
Maybe you have to, I mean, you had, since you were 13, I'm not going to do the math on how many years, but you've had like 3 or 4 years anyways to master the custard part. You might want to take it slow getting the crust, you know what I mean?
I agree with you.
Okay. And then you're just going to cut the edge off. You can make a fancy crust if you want, like a fancy border. Some people like to do that. I'm not a huge fan of that. I like I like the rustic look of just having it. When you see this, you know it was homemade. If you get the fancy and you're really good at it, all of a sudden you think it might be frozen. You don't want people to think it was frozen. You want them to know it's homemade, right?
Yes.
Okay, so At this point, we usually stick it in the oven to pre-bake it, par bake it we call it, right?
Yes.
So with a frozen dough, sometimes because they've been frozen and sat there for a long time, they usually keep their shape pretty well. With a fresh dough, the gluten in the flour will actually needs to relax a little bit, which hasn't happened yet. So what'll happen is that if you're trying to bake this ahead of time like this, you'll want to do what's called blind baking. So what we're going to do is we're going to take beans. I have pinto beans here, and we fill the shell. And what that does is it gives it weight. So the shell's filled in, so the sides won't fall down. Here's a great example of the first one that I did, that I did not use the beans in. And as you can see, the crust that used to be over to here is now halfway down the thing. So it's very important that you do the beans if you're going to use a fresh dough. If you're using frozen dough, it's not as important. So we're going to stick this in the oven. And that usually goes for, 10 minutes, 5 minutes? What are we looking at?
I preheat the oven to 350, and I keep an eye on it because it starts to rise. Once it starts to rise, I take it out.
Okay, so you don't want it to really rise up too much.
Yes.
Do you want to wipe your hands off?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we're gonna.
Comfort zone.
What do you know about quiche? It's French, right?
Yes.
Well, let me tell you an interesting fact about that. It's only kind of French. I'm gonna get probably hate mail for this, but quiche, although started in the Lorraine region of France, right? That's quiche Lorraine. Makes sense, right?
Yes.
When quiche was created, it was actually part of Germany.
Part of Germany.
Yeah, because back in the Middle Ages, those lines moved a lot. So technically, quiche is actually German food, and the French stole it from them. But hopefully, I don't get too much hate mail for that. All right, so we have a bowl here, so we're going to start making the Lorraine part of it, the quiche part of it, the egg part, the custard part.
Okay.
I noticed you were really concerned about sizes of your cuts,
Yes.
as you should be.
Yes.
French cooking very much is a concern about sizes. So I cut some of the stuff, but I left you the jalapeno pepper, which doesn't seem like a typical French thing. Jalapeno pepper.
Oh, this is one of my things. That
Oh, you added that. That's your own little addition
little
to it.
touch.
I wanted to ask you about this too. As I'm going through the recipe, I noticed there's no salt or pepper in it.
Correct. One thing I find is that the Swiss cheese itself
Adds the salt.
blends in with the custard and adds a sodium or salt.
What about your
taste.
pepper? That must be the jalapeno.
Yes.
So I guess that adds enough heat that you feel like you have salt. Because I would never
Yes.
eat eggs that didn't have salt and pepper on them.
Yes, it gives a little bit of an but not a lot.
But not a lot. You're not trying to kill anybody.
Yes.
All right, so you're looking at,
Oh no, not finer when I slice it.
well, you need like a quarter of it, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I was giving you the quarter. I wasn't expecting you to put a
Oh.
chunk like that in there. Obviously, that would not be. Do you leave the seeds in?
Yes.
You leave the seeds in.
Yes.
See, now you're
You
blowing my
you
mind here,
shouldn't do
man.
that?
Oh, I don't know. I've never heard anybody leaving the seeds in. That's like the first thing you cut out, because everybody says that that's where the heat is.
And what I tend to do is try to cut it as fine as I can. Similar to this,
Okay,
as fine as I can.
right?
Get that off there. And it
Don't
makes-
cut yourself,
Yeah, it makes it a little
That'll be
challenging
embarrassing.
when I get to the end.
right?
We don't want anything red, only green.
Anything red? Oh, right.
In the
If you want to
ingredients.
just cut your slice or two off of here,
Oh.
that might be easier, because you have something to hold on to.
I see.
Well, yeah, last thing I need is
I can
for you to
catch
miss
it.
a finger. It's going to be hard to type on the computer then,
I agree.
at your desk job. That's
And-
probably enough, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Then from here, I dice.
I can't believe you leave the seeds in. That's crazy. No
And I-
offense.
Oh,
I'm not saying you're crazy. I'm just saying that's crazy.
oh, it's crazy in a good way.
Apparently.
And I slice it in fours,
Wow, you really go to a lot of effort for your cutting.
and this is fours. Slice this in fours. So it's
I'm
more.
gonna show you a little trick just to make your life go a little quicker. You can just stack them back up and cut all of them.
You know,
before
I've
lunch,
never
you know.
done it that way.
Wouldn't that make more sense?
It's yes.
Look, I've saved you like 5 minutes
of dicing.
prep time. Yeah, like if
Wow.
you've made 50 quiches, what is that? That's 25 minutes or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yes,
That's
lifetime. And then here, I normally put a little stack, and this is ready to be included into the.
oh, that's as small as you do it.
Yes.
I thought you were doing like a dice, like a really tiny dice or something. No?
Not quite that time.
Okay, look at that. So he's ready to go. So why don't you start with your eggs? You're going to pour you've got six eggs. Now I used 9 here because I used a medium-sized egg. It's usually a 6 large egg, so you're going to have to make adjustments depending on the size of the egg you put.
Here, and I start. The one thing that's tough with the yolk, to get that to break first before I really start beating the eggs.
Okay. Wouldn't they just break if you started beating them?
They will?
Yeah.
I've never done it that way.
Just go. Leave that one hole and just start going. Okay, so I'm just gonna can I help you out a second?
Yes, my technique is.
That's fine. It's very French. So I tend to hold it. I don't know how to explain that, but with the finger there, you can kind of have control over it. And then you've got this huge bowl. That's why I like to put things in a big bowl, because then you can go all over the place. That's probably another 5 minutes I saved you, right?
I've never done it that quick.
You can keep going if you like. I mean, there you go. You got the whole bowl. I mean, it can go all the way up the sides if it wants. Go crazy. All right, so next you're going to add your cream.
Yes.
Half and half. Half and half.
Yes.
Very important. Now guess what? I didn't have half and half.
Oh, what did you use?
I made half and half.
Oh, half cream and half milk.
I did. Half heavy cream and half milk. Genius, right?
Yes. This is really scratch.
This is really scratch, right? I mean, I didn't milk the cow or anything, but...
Here?
And then you're going to mix the cream in, right?
Yes. Try your.
That's about 3/4 of a cup of cream for those that are paying attention. Okay, so we have that and we have that. We have one more thing, the spinach.
Yes.
I wanted to show you a cool thing with the spinach.
Should I do this?
That's fine. So you usually just kind of chop it up,
Yes.
just randomly, like. So if you do, it's called a chiffonade. I figured for our French quiche we should do a chiffonade. You line up all your leaves. It's great for like basil or for that kind of stuff as well, herbs. But you line everything up, right? And then what you do is you curl it up into a little, like a roulade, like another French term, right? Fun. It's just like a jelly roll. And then you just go down. And what happens is because it's rolled up, you get these nice, beautiful, long chiffonades of.
Nice. And I noticed you didn't slice, you chopped.
Yes.
I normally slice.
But it's a French knife.
Gotcha. Chop is better.
Normally, the only time you really have to do this kind of motion with a knife is if you're carving. So, like if you had a serrated knife or if you had a carving knife or something,
Gotcha.
oftentimes chefs will do a chop. So, I'm gonna let you chop. I'm gonna let you chop a little bit of that. But you see, just make sure it's a tight roll like that.
Tight roll.
And that also allows your knuckles to be out of the way, so you can.
Work on the chop.
And yeah, you just rock it.
Rock it.
Leave this end of your knife down.
Mhm.
This should never leave the cutting board, and you just rock it. That's why it's got that nice.
That's why it's
That's why it's got the curve on it.
How am I doing? Am I rocking?
You're doing great. You're rocking it, buddy.
Thank you.
And remember, I'm a pastry chef, so don't try this at home. All right.
I'm an experienced cook.
So we're gonna go ahead and grab this out. We're gonna start adding the ingredients. Now it matters what order the ingredients go in, right?
Yes.
This is very important to you. I know you were.
Yes, it matters. First, I like to put the spinach along the back portion of the pie shell.
Okay.
Should I start?
Yeah.
And here.
Yeah. So I was saying before about it being German. Quiche actually derives from the German word Quiche. Kuche. I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing that right.
Mhm.
Which loosely is defined as cake. So it was something that they made in that area, and actually that section of France is very Germanic even today.
Oh, nice.
There's a lot of German influence there.
It's good to know. Thanks for sharing.
Hey, anytime, buddy. So have you been to France? Have you made it there yet?
No.
Are you planning?
It's on my things to do, but haven't
Bucket
done it
list?
yet. Yes.
Okay. You're gonna take your sister with you?
No.
You guys have a good relationship or what?
But it's good, but it's no, it's not. No.
She's not a partier like you?
She's more of a party than I am.
Oh, my bad. Okay. All right. David Broadus, not a partier, people.
Then from here, the next step,
Right?
I had one of the fillers. I had the pepper.
The hot pepper.
Yes. On top, and I spaced them strategically on top of the spinach.
Strategically.
Yes.
Okay. The thing too about jalapenos, if people have ever eaten fresh jalapenos, they're
Mhm.
typically not as hot as you would get. If you go to a Mexican restaurant and they have like the pickled jalapenos, they tend to be a little hotter.
Yes.
So this is not, it's not as hot as it looks when you're looking at these fresh jalapenos going in here. Excellent. So we've
Thank
got beautiful jalapenos and spinach. What's next?
The next thing I do is I take thin slices of Swiss cheese and place it on top of the filler.
Before you put anything else in.
Oh, is there onions?
We have onions and green peppers too.
Yes, I need to really add those.
We did a very small dice on these.
Nice.
I'm hoping that's
That's what I.
closest. Okay,
Yes,
so
that's what I aim for when I.
excellent. See, I aim to please. So we have like a quarter of a pepper here, and we have about a quarter of an onion as well. And I diced those up ahead of time. So you go ahead and sprinkle those amongst it as you would like it.
So here I use the entire pie shell for the onions. Not only the on top of the spinach, but also
The entire thing.
yes, the entire thing. And I sprinkle this around. That looks great. Throughout.
Okay.
Next, I take the green pepper
peppers.
and I sprinkle these around. I try to get on top of the spinach. In addition, I try to get on top toward the middle so that it's spread
Now,
evenly.
when you make this for your friends, is it
Yes.
like a brunch? Like you're doing it for breakfast? Because I know Americans like this kind of stuff for breakfast.
No, it's like a brunch. Like a brunch.
It's a little fancier breakfast.
Yes, like a lunchtime.
Like a fancy breakfast.
Yes.
You wearing a tie then?
No, but I should.
I think so.
It
Yeah,
adds
I
to
think
the
that's-
presentation.
Yeah, I think it matters. Oftentimes in France and some other countries where they would do this more, this would be something you'd bring out at a fancy event. This quiche would be something, and you typically eat it warm, I assume.
Yes.
Americans oftentimes eat it warm.
Mhm.
Other places, it's not required. Room temperature or even cold is fine, which sounds crazy for eggs because who wants cold eggs, right?
I agree.
But it's a very common place.
And one thing I find when it's warm, the cheese melts and it adds a certain dynamic to the taste factor when the cheese is melted.
because now you're eating with more senses, you're actually feeling it too, right?
That's right.
All right. So we need some thin slices of cheese. So this is very difficult to cut cheese thin. I did notice that. So I'm hoping I'm doing it right. Because I don't cut
Nice.
cheese all the time.
Nice.
Is that about a...
That works. That's
Because you
nice.
don't usually cut your own cheese, right?
I get that pre-cut.
You get that pre-cut as well. Excellent. So we're going to layer all the cheese.
And can I share? I normally in half,
Okay.
and that way I can really anchor.
Because you're trying to keep the green stuff down.
Yes,
Okay. So no, you can't use shredded cheese.
that's correct.
Okay.
I like it in a full piece where I
Okay.
separate it by tearing in half and then applying on top of the spinach first.
And this is Swiss cheese, by the way. Maybe we should use a French cheese. Joking. Swiss cheese is delicious, man. I think it adds a huge dynamic to the final product. It gives it a flavor that you wouldn't normally have.
And once I've added on top of the filler or
Mhm.
the spinach, I could then take full sheets
because now you've got space for full sheets.
Yes.
Is that enough cheese? Did you want more?
Oh, this is perfect.
Oh, excellent. Because I put the cheese away. I pull it back out for you, but I'm just saying. Okay, so we have our beautiful quiche covered in cheese. So we can just go in the oven now, right?
Oh no, we need to add the
Oh, right, the
custard.
egg. That's like the main ingredient, right?
Yes. And how I do it?
That's right to the top, isn't it?
Yes. And here's the tough part. How we
How do we
get it
move
from
it?
the counter to the oven
Without spilling it?
Yes.
Well, maybe you should have waited to fill it until we got closer to the oven.
You're right. That was part of my hesitation. I was familiar with this style kitchen.
Okay, well, we're going to put it on a sheet pan.
I do that at home to catch the drip sometimes.
Does it drip a lot?
When I do it, I get some drips like
I
that.
just dripped. Even a pro like me.
It's
You
tough.
open the oven up, we can put the gas. That'd be great. Got a little more drip. That's going to be, this is key right here, right? 350 for 20 minutes.
Yes,
And then you turn the oven down.
to 325 for the remaining time, which is
Maybe about an hour?
Yes,
Total?
total cook time is an hour 70 minutes. But
Depending on your oven.
yes, once it gets beyond 50 minutes, I check on it to make sure that
Got an eye on it then.
Yes, to make sure that the Swiss cheese doesn't burn
What
because
do
it
you,
begins to
'cause
rise.
I was going to say, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for,
You just want it, it's custard, so you just want it set, right?
yes, what indicates to me that it's done is when it rises to a certain level, I know that it's
It's
cooked. through.
souffles. So then it will come back down. So when you are baking it, don't panic when you see the edges all pop up and it'll start doming a little bit. That's the eggs as they coagulate, they're actually expanding, and they will fall back down. Now there's no water bath on this,
Right.
which you would do for other custards to keep them from doing that. So, but that's okay because we want it to taste like egg. We don't want it to taste like pudding, right?
I agree. That's my goal.
That's the goal, is to taste like egg. All right, so we're gonna let that cook for a few minutes, and then we'll be back. Okay, I think we're about ready. I want to check on that.
Yes,
See how
I can't wait.
see how it looks. See if it's up to your specifications. Careful not to burn yourself. I'm gonna take this.
Looks beautiful.
Does it look like it should?
Yes,
A nice, beautiful brown color there.
yes.
Does it usually get colored?
I do, yes.
Okay.
It's the brown color. That's the Swiss cheese, is that? I think it comes up, doesn't it?
It should be up. It's on top of the food, right?
Right. But
I
then
guess
the
we'll find
custard's
out
on-
if we did it right in a second.
I agree.
Whether it came up or not, right? Are you hungry? You want these?
Yes, I'm starved.
So you just cut it like a pie, huh?
Yes.
Is that enough?
Oh, that's perfect. That's enough.
Joking.
I was talking about the bigger slice,
Oh, my mistake.
not the smaller slice.
Oh, see, my bad. How's that look?
That looks nice. Nice
See
and
how,
layered.
see how the green is now all up at the top, but yet it's under the cheese, so it's not sticking out the top, and the egg is now underneath. So that's exactly what you're looking for, right?
Yes.
I do have some bad news, though.
Bad news?
Yeah, because I feel like eating this fine French food and the brunch style that we are, we should be using forks and being all proper, but I couldn't find any forks. So we're gonna have to go caveman on this stuff.
Yes. And do you mind if I take the nicest looking piece?
I expected you to take the nicer looking piece,
Thank you.
just like me, the nicer looking host.
That's true. You probably
Cheers.
get that a lot.
Yeah, all the time.
Mm. That's good.
It is good. I noticed it's interesting how the spinach, although it was only set at the back, kind of worked its way up a little bit.
It did.
Is that normally,
It does. That normally happens. But one reason why I like to start in the back is that you see the separation. It looks prettier.
it does look pretty. I'm not gonna lie, it looks pretty. So this is delicious. Thanks again for coming
Thank you.
and sharing your quiche recipe. Maybe someday you can get to France yourself and try it out.
That's on my to-do list. We will make this happen.
Thank you for joining us today for our episode of Baker Dave Presents. Thank you to David Broadus for bringing his quiche recipe. Join us again next time on Baker Dave Presents. And remember, every recipe has a story.